Do you hear that thumping? It appears that all 5 cats are coming with me. But I have no idea if they're really going to follow or if they're just decided to leave the house at the same time. Come on! I don't know, do you hear meowing? I don't know what's up with these cats. It's a little warmer. They might have spring fever. Anyway, the point of this video, I'm going to have to keep it kind of short because I don't have much battery left. Making me nervous listening to them yelling. Anyway, oh, there's Perry. He's off in the woods. Can't see him because he's orange and dead leaves. One sort of a bummer of an, but maybe not a bummer of an update, and also the point of this, they're all in the woods freaking me out. It's kind of hard to make this video because, oh, I've got to turn this light off. It's going to attract neighbors. Sorry. Can you see Perry? He's down at the end of the pole down there. So they are coming. Anyway, it hits my self-worth thing, which is, of course, deep, deep in the toilet. Doesn't exist. So this is one of those videos that might go up and come right back down because I might change my mind in 5 seconds. Okay. A little update. I have been talking about, for quite some time, a 5-year plan, which was then to die. Here's one to die instantly. Now the point of it was, when I came up with it, was things were insanely bad with my son. And it's not that my son was causing it, although he has been a handful. It was the stress of all of his doctor appointments and therapists and school and trying to work, and the pressure of all these people was literally killing me. It was everything an avoidant person needs not to have in their life. By the way, an update on him. He turned 18, decided he didn't want to have anything to do with any of the therapeutic interventions that I had made, and blamed me for everything and said it was awful and I was controlling his life and he was going to refuse everything. And his life kind of tanked, but he told me today he's very proud of himself, that he's been talking with his doctor and he is gradually adding back the medications. And he's saying, I'm starting at a much lower dose, as if that's it's fantastic. That's all it is, it's fantastic. He really bottomed out there for a while, and now he's gradually, because it's his decision, that makes it better. I don't care, whatever, he's starting to take his meds again. And life is better. And he is far less violent. Obnoxious. He's a teenager. But he's much more safe to be around. That's really good news. Anyway, so the 5-year plan was basically a way to push off, a way to deal with stress. If you look at my very first video, and it's how I live my life. See, the idea of suicide is sort of a, geez, wouldn't it be great if I didn't have this stress in my life? So my original 5-year plan deadline has passed. And my next one is coming up this weekend. And the absolute, can't imagine that I would survive past this date. It's coming up in less than weeks. But what I've been doing, if you hadn't noticed, because last year was really, really bad, and losing all my connections to everybody, and people like my therapist who know what's going on think that I am living the life. I barely work. I cover all my bills, and I have all this extra income and all this extra time. I can do whatever I want, but I also have no responsibility, and it feels selfish, and it feels wrong, and I'm unmoored, and it's massively triggering, and it's just terrible. And I don't know how. I don't feel truly like I have any right to be alive and to waste the world's resources unless I'm being useful. Truly. And I have nothing and nobody to be useful for. But what I've been doing, if you hadn't noticed, is I keep going on these trips to push it back. I mean, this last one, the reason I missed the deadline. Oh, there's people there. I gotta go for a second. Okay, past him. The reason I missed the deadline was because I had this trip planned. Because I also have this big feeling of being responsible, and if I say I'm going to do something and I'm going to be somewhere, I do it. And I planned another one, which was actually my kid. I was going to do an event, and my son was like, well, you're going to stay over? I was like, no. And I was like, maybe I'll look into that. What can I do and expand that? And sure enough, now I have another trip planned next week after the next deadline. It seems to be working, and I'm nervous about, is this an maladaptive coping technique because it's unsustainable? But I talked to my therapist about it, and he's like, right now seems pretty sustainable to me. Maybe it's not a lifelong thing. Maybe when you're 85, you're not going to be taking a trip every 2 months. Maybe I will be. But, every day I get past my 5-year deadline is a day that nobody really expected. So I am continuing to take these trips and plan these trips, and I'm planning another one for end of April. Okay, so here's the hard, crazy thing. Again, I don't like doing anything unless I feel like I'm useful. This is why, I take all these pictures. Well, I got to do something with them. Come on, I can't just have these experiences and keep them to myself. That's why I started the Instagram page where I'm posting massive numbers. And actually, I haven't even finished. I've got an entire day of pictures to still put up from my last trip. And I'm planning my next trip in less than a week. But sort of not having the pressure hanging over my head of I am responsible at this time, and this time. I must have this done. In other words, like a regular job or something like that. But yet also have people not really dependent on me, but sort of, having expectations. Seems to be making it not worth it, but it's taking off that edge of I don't have any reason for being alive. Anyway, so, and it was actually suggested in comments on this channel first. Again, this is a self-worth thing. Like, what I'm saying is, oh my God. And also another outlet for explaining stuff that I'm doing. Cutting a chase here. It's getting difficult to say this. At the encouragement, 100% of everybody that's heard of it, I have set up a Patreon page. Now, the point is not to get, like, make a living off of it. I mean, it costs money to travel, and that's part of my budget. And that's part of one of the things that started keeping me going is doing this budgeting and planning. I'm used to having to budget time for 3 very ill members of my family, and I don't have to do that anymore. But managing a money budget is, for a while that was really bad and stressful because I just didn't have any way of, functioning. I had nothing left, and I had to find a way to continue to make money. Well, and then I started making more than I actually needed to survive on, which is just wrong in my book. How I grew up was if you have anything extra, you need to give it to your parents, give it to your kid. You don't spend it on yourself, who the hell are you? I'm worthless. I'm nothing. You haven't seen it because I can't stand looking at myself. It's one of the reasons I don't edit. I can't stand looking at myself, and I can't stand listening to myself. But I keep, getting my hair worked on. This is a big deal. I was raised that you're supposed to maybe once every 3 years get your hair cut when it was really ratty and disgusting, cut it all off and start over again. The fact that I'm going every other month to get my hair worked on is a huge change, and it's a positive one that I'm sort of taking care of myself. The next thing that truthfully, the next thing on my list is I'm going to see an eye doctor to get my prescription checked because I am getting older, and who the hell do I think I am wasting money on that? And I'm probably going to get new glasses because I'm probably going to need them, but in my world, you're supposed to get by as long as you possibly can because I'm not worth it. Once I'm done with that, also very scary and huge fan, all the way back. Talked about it before. I think, some people are probably going to be utterly disgusted by this, but whatever. I'm trying to get up the gumption to go to a dentist. Haven't been to a dentist in over 10 years because that is frivolous. My mother tells me stories of growing up in a family with 5 kids and 2 adults, and all of them shared one toothbrush. She also lost all her teeth. Well, I brush my teeth and floss and all that nifty stuff, and I don't have teeth issues, thank God. Maybe. Who knows? Maybe I have cavities. It would be another massive expense, but whatever. It's something that adults are supposed to do. And it's not that expensive. And I'm trying to get it, but it's really intimate. It's having something in your mouth. And it really is, again, if I had a toothache, okay, I would go to the dentist and think nothing of it. But preventive care of something that's sort of vain is, it's something that both of my parents did. It's one of the most disturbing, awful things. My father broke one of his front teeth within weeks of having his diagnosis for dementia. And, that is unquestionably his biggest expense, is massive bills that he had on dental work because he's so vain about his teeth, and it's really sad to look at him with this broken tooth. He's never complained about it hurting. And he does complain about things when they hurt, so that's one good thing. I don't want to point it out to him because I don't think that he even realizes it, and I don't want him to be vain about it. I'm stepping on ice, by the way. Anyway. So yeah, that's what I did. I made up a Patreon. And it is actually live, which is really scary. And I'm not saying, hey, everybody, send me money. It's kind of not the point. It's more like a sign of progress. It's actually not the YouTube people. I mean, YouTube sort of is affiliated with it, but it is Instagram. It is the pictures of my travels. It's not about avoidant personality disorder. It is going to be about, behind the scenes of travel is going to be the point. That's where I'm going to put things like, this is how I can travel so often to so many places on such a small budget. This is my actual process. This is what it's like when I'm packing. This is how I make my decisions about where I'm going to go and how I'm going to do it. People are interested in that. Like, how am I able to do this? I have a ridiculously tiny income. I don't think I'm going to make $20,000 this year, and I've gone on 3 foreign trips, like 3 different continents. So that is interesting to people. And the other thing that I'm going to, I want to say it's push, but I'm going to push. What I'm going to put out there is that basically the benefit of becoming Patreon is that on every trip I go to, if you're signed up for the tiers, this is the other thing, it's like a certain amount of money. I hate that I'm putting money on things. I can't do it and lose money, of course, but yeah, so certain high enough tier, and once I get in there, I think that there can be like a one-off bump to, I don't know, I'm going to have to work on it and research it more. By the way, that's where the ghosts live, and I haven't heard the ghost all winter, so I think he went south. Anyway, I'm going to send postcards from wherever I go. There's a person I don't know, very nice guy, affiliated with YouTube. He actually has a channel. It's called Creaties. It's CRE80S without any apostrophes. He's an artist. He's really smart, and he's very much like everybody. Is an artist, and they're doing their own things, and super nice and encouraging of people. And yeah, I've been sending him postcards on my trips, and he's super appreciative. He's like, oh my God, look at this, stamps from Italy. It's real, that sort of thing. There are people that are really into that. There are people that go on eBay and spend $45 for a postcard with a postmark of a certain place. And for those people, this is a really cheap way of getting some kind of cool stuff, which is a postcard mailed from a place. And I mean, and that again, it does interest me. I always go to a regular grocery store, and I usually go to a post office where I'm at. I mean, Italy was crazy. Italy was going like to the DMV. Marrakesh was pretty straightforward. It was a little difficult because don't speak Arabic, and they didn't speak English, trying to negotiate, that sort of thing. But I think that sort of real life stuff when I'm traveling is actually interesting. So, very rambly to say, it's very strange. I'm going to run out of battery. I need to hurry and shut up. But, the trip seems to be doing it for me right now. as far as my nifty 5-year plan, I got rid of the stress. That was the first part. Massive amount of stress I cut out of my life and simplified my life. And it was like throwing the baby out with the bathwater, because I also got rid of all responsibility and basically all human interaction. And that was taking it a little too far. So now I've added back in sort of the best, most effective parts of it, which is planning and something to look forward to, and responsibility. I mean, as stupid as it seems, my responsibility is to make sure that I make it to the airport at this time. But there's my boy. He's silly. Can you see him? Probably not. He's rolling around in the flash unavailable because the battery is too low. Here he is. I'm going to have to shut this off. Anyway, so that seems to be... You can't see him at all. That's Perry. He's right there. You can't see him at all. Yeah. So that seems to be what's keeping me going, is going on these trips and interacting with people on very low level. And so I'm going to, I put up the Patreon. Eventually it probably will fund future trips. Not completely, obviously. I mean, I go real cheap, but I don't go that cheap, And it was requested, which I take as a massive compliment, because I made a decision back to the beginning. YouTube has been on my case for years about putting ads on my videos. And I think they're educational, even when I'm yapping around like this. I think they're, like, health-wise helpful. Still can't see them. For people. And so I just don't feel that it's appropriate that I get paid for it. I mean, I'm not a professional when it comes to making videos, and I mean, I might have a lot of information, and I might hopefully be sort of like an inspiration on how to survive when you have avoidant personality disorder. Can you see him yet? A little bit? Come on, guy! Here he comes. Still hopping along on 3 legs. And I hear another one down there. It's probably Poppy. Anyway, but this, I mean, that's a real thing. And, if I'm sending postcards, that's a real tangible thing. It's kind of outrageous. But, if you get a postcard from Africa for a few bucks compared to paying and traveling more than 24 hours each way to get there, it's worth it to people. So that's like a service that I would be willing to do. So that's the way I'm looking at it. And again, what the point of the Patreon would be is to sort of give you a background look on how to travel, how I travel specifically, etc. There he goes, hopping along. See him humping along. There's one of my guys. Can't see anything. I think that's Percy. He's my stealthy guy. Anyway, or maybe it's that black cat that lives down there. The one that's so friendly. So this stressed me out to make this video, because again, it implies that I'm worth something, and it implies that I feel like I'm worth something, and it's like against my every nature. And the videos I made, no, I don't think they're worth getting paid for. But again, if I'm providing a service to people and sending them postcards and stamps, etc. from other countries, okay. Then that makes sense to me. So that's the update. I'm not dead yet. And I found a way to not be dead. And I didn't have any hope at all. I really thought everything was just going to get worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. And finally, I would have earned my relief by being able to die. And I never thought that it was going to change at all. And it did. My mother died. My father went in the hospital. My son left. And that was bad because that was my life, was keeping track. I didn't even have a job, really. That was my life, taking care of them. So then I, really didn't have any use in being alive. Never thought this would have changed. But it did. So the pushing everything off, just give it another day. Give it another day. It's kind of like what they do in AA. They're like, well, just for today. Just for today. Wait, just for today. Just for today. And I really do still feel like that. As a matter of fact, I've got like a kind of an obligation. My son actually points it out all the time. Mom, you said you were going to die by now, didn't you? He does have access to my YouTube account. He's like, well, aren't you kind of a liar? You said you were gonna. He's just, when he's being at his worst and his most hateful, he's the only one that ever says that. But I do feel like I said I was going to do this and I'm not doing it. And there's a big part of me that's really like, well, you said you were going to do this. But again, the point of that was not, the point of it was, the reason I put the time and the date on it, and I told everybody that it's not like this is my deadline, this is when I'm going to do it. It's more like this is the first time I'll be available to do it. That I put everything on hold and said, this is not a choice I can make now. I can't make it until this time. Now I can make it that choice. And I haven't made that choice. And I'm continuing to not make that choice. And I'm trying to sort of go with it and not analyze it, not say, okay, well, this isn't possible. Nobody can go on 4 trips a year. Well, I have done it. And I don't know if I'll be able to keep doing it forever. But for right now, I can. And I don't know what else is going to change in the future. And maybe something else will come along if I can't do the traveling. Who knows? Anyway, this is way longer than I thought it was going to be. So I'm probably going to turn it off now before the battery dies. And try to get these cats back wrangled into the house. Bye.